Everybody said, man, I heard you slept in the blind. I said, well, you heard wrong because I didn't sleep. I sat in the blind, but I didn't sleep. Bucks were sparring. I could hear that. I heard a buck let out a big, long grunt. I looked up and I could see legs underneath the underbrush. I knew what was fixing to happen.
What's up, everybody? Welcome back to the Drury Outdoors 100% Wild podcast powered by DeerCast. This is Tim Kjellesvik.
This is Matt Drury, and as we sit today, and as this will air, we're right in the middle of this October here. We're right in the October lull, but we also have that rising moon. Of course, tomorrow, the 17th, will be the full moon.
Yep.
So we're kind of getting past that great, where it's rising in the afternoons and getting the deer up on their feet a little bit earlier. It's starting to get a little bit later and later. I think last night it was like 5:30-ish. So it's funny because I've been out the last two evenings. The weather, as I know, have been going as well. The weather's been deluxe. Mm-hmm. And it's funny because I look at, we had Mark on last week and he talked about this is a tough phase, but a good moon can typically help a tough phase. Yep. But it is a tough phase, and it's interesting because as the moon would rise, I'd look at DeerCast. It's either rise time, and then we would see spider.
No,
we would see deer get up and pop onto the food plot almost within minutes of that full moon rising. Mm-hmm. And but if you're not there on top of them or where the bucks are, I mean, these are does and young bucks and stuff like that. If you're not where the mature bucks are, it could be feast or famine. And that's kind of what I've been noticing for the mature bucks. Like pictures haven't been great unless I was on a scrape, mm-hmm. Or something like that. Yeah. And so you know where I've been hunting, at least I've had for a long time. I've talked about it. I have a couple good shooters on this piece, mm-hmm. and they've been on this food plot consistently up till about 2 weeks ago. Well, about 2 weeks ago, the neighbors cut their corn.
Yeah.
And I have a neighbor that's on the fence line. We've talked about it before. Totally is right. I get it. Yep. Don't kill me in the comments. But he is on a tree. He's in a tree.
He can wave at you.
Well, you're getting ahead of me.
No.
So,
okay.
So he's in a tree where all his limbs and stuff were hanging on my side on the lease that I have. Uh-huh. And he trimmed all those limbs maybe a couple weeks before the season started. He trimmed all those limbs right into, fell right onto me. And I thought, oh shit, this he's getting, no doubt the same pictures that I'm getting.
Yes, hunting the same deer.
Yeah, we're hunting the same deer, so I can't blame the guy, but he does not have a great spot to hunt. He's not got a great setup. He's hunting on kind of a homemade tree stand, and he's doing probably the best he can in the spot he's got. Mm-hmm. But my pictures have just totally stopped. And I just thought, man, this is really odd. I just wonder if this guy's been hunting a lot because I've been waiting for the exact right conditions, and I'm hunting in a box blind, so I'm usually pretty airtight in those muddy blinds. Like access in is amazing, mm-hmm. pretty minimal damage, and I just thought this is really weird. I wonder if this guy's been hunting, weekends and stuff like that. Well, so yesterday we go into the spot. I'm walking in, and the day before I had moved a trail camera to a scrape that popped up right there at the fence line. Okay. And I moved a trail camera to it, and I was like, I'm gonna pee in the scrape on the way in, mm-hmm. and just freshen it up. So Will, the camera guy, he's heading to the blind, and I go over to the scrape, and I unzip, I start doing what I was about to do. I look up and this guy starts waving at me. He's like 15 yards from where I'm at. Just staring at me. I zipped up.
But he still can't see anything.
Exactly. Thank you, Tim. And so I just kind of threw my hands up in the air like, God damn it. So I call Will back over there.
Wait, did you cut it off midstream?
No, I hadn't started. I was just getting ready to. Okay. That would have hurt, Tim.
That would have been impressive, though.
Yeah. So I think, well, okay, I got a couple choices. I could leave here. I could sit here. I could try to find another spot. But for that wind, for the time of day, it was almost 5 o'clock. I was running late, and I was like, shit, I got no choice. I'm going to hunt. So I sit there.
You just invite him in the blind with you?
I hunt.
Hey, come on over.
The whole time I did an interview in the blind, I go, well, unfortunately, what's going to happen here is any deer that comes out from that west side of the plot is going to either smell him. He had the right wind. It was blowing down the fence line. It was a good wind. But as the thermals started to drop, it was going to suck it right back into where all the deer pop out.
Because it's thick down in that valley.
Exactly. And I called it 100%. First deer that came from the east. So he walks past this little buck, past us and makes some scrapes and stuff. And he goes over there. As soon as he gets underneath the guy, he freaks out and runs back into the timber. And then later on, a doe pops out right when things really should start picking up. And she came out on that side that he's on and instantly smelled them, blew, went down. And I just thought, okay.
Why am I here?
Why am I here?
Because it's what, a hour and a half, 2 hour drive for you back home?
Hour and a half, yeah. And, and I got the trailer and the tracker on it and all that stuff. And it's a commitment, And so I had texted Forrest and Terry when I first got in the blind to tell them the story, and they're rolling, they're laughing.
Yep.
So fast forward this morning, I opened up my, the app to look at all my trail cam pictures, and I did pee in it when I left. So when I left the stand last night, he was already gone, and I left pretty early to go see what was, I wanted to say, not confront him, just kind of say, hey, would love to get your number. So if I know you're in here, I'm not going to go in here, just be neighborly. Yeah. But he skedaddled pretty quickly. He was nowhere to be found. So anyway, I pee in the scrape. Dominant buck, man. I'm telling you, because 3 out of my 4 shooters hit that scrape overnight, just in a row. The best pictures I've had of all the deer all year.
That was the 15th. Maybe you were hitting peak estrus.
I might be peak estrus. That's right. That's a little early, but so anyways, I thought you'd get a kick out of that.
I mean, that's a scenario that I would have to deal with on
that's some
hunting
stuff.
So close to in suburbia. Yeah. And I did have a guy show up on one of my stealth cams he came off the St. Louis County Parks ground with a big headlamp and like one of those 12 volt old school flashlights. Yeah. And I don't know if maybe he shot a deer on the public ground and decided to come track it on the private piece that I hunt that's adjacent. But I was like, well, that spot's screwed up for a few days. Yep.
Well, I don't know how I'm going to hunt this spot going forward, especially if he's there when I'm there, because we're going to be hunting the same type of winds. But anything westerly from him goes right over this food plot. So I really don't know what to do with it. So if you're a listener of this podcast, feel free to reach us at comments@druryoutdoors.com and let's make a game plan, fella. So.
Oh, like you want him to reach out and coordinate, or are you looking for another spot?
No, I'm looking to know when he's hunting so I don't waste my time.
Gotcha.
It's an hour and a half away from home.
His name is Frank, and you need Frankcast.
Yeah. So anyways, but we got a good show in front of us. And
let's get the misadventures out of the way, because we actually have a story with redeeming value.
It's pretty awesome. So we got a Rack Pack member joining us today.
Ryan Doss is coming to us from Kentucky. He's on cloud 9 right now. He killed a 211 and 5/8 Kentucky buck. Ryan, we don't like you. We don't like your kind.
We envy you. What's up, man? How are you doing?
You may not be the only ones. I don't know.
So you posted the pictures in the Rack Pack. If anybody doesn't know, it's a Facebook group that you can join and kind of follow along with all the shenanigans. But guys like Ryan post up awesome hero pictures,
cool stuff,
and it gives the rest of us guys some hope. So this story was pretty interesting, though, on how you went in there after this deer and what you had to do. Why don't you take us through a little bit of history of this deer? And was it Bob Gnarly, or what was the name of this buck?
Bob Gnarly, yeah, that's right. I can remember being a kid and seeing Mark and Terry and the Lukoskis and Don and Candy, nicknaming deer, and I always thought that was pretty cool. And some people like it, some people don't, but I've done it for a long time. I thought of that name, several years ago, and I never had anything worthy of toting it. But I thought he may fit the bill just fine. So I think he had almost 40 inches of abnormal points. So I felt pretty in line calling him Bob Gnarly.
So was this a deer that you've had a couple years of history and knowledge of, or was this a new buck this year?
No, I had a few pictures of this deer last year. I don't remember exactly the dates, but last year the rut here at home, it blew wide open in October couple weeks earlier than we're used to seeing it, and people were killing deer like crazy. I do some taxidermy work, and I was slammed that week. And the other people's success, I can gauge what deer are doing as much off of that as I can off what I'm seeing and what my cameras are telling me. And that same week, this deer showed up on a little 17-acre piece that I had permission to hunt. Never really felt like I was in the game much to kill him, but because the pictures that I were getting were 1, 2 o'clock in the morning, it would be a couple pictures and that's it. And over a 5-day span, I probably got like a dozen pictures of this deer. But it was the rut. He was a 160-inch deer then. And I've got lucky in the rut before, so I knew I had to at least hunt him. And I told myself, if I get any pictures at all, I don't care when they are or how much, I'm going to hunt this deer. When rifle season rolls around in a few weeks, if he's disappeared, I won't, hang the rest of my season on him. I'll go on and do something else, in which it's what I ended up doing. My nephew and I ended up killing bucks on the same day, the second day of rifle season, and that was the end of it for that point in time. And like I say, at that point, I had no prior history with this deer, but fast forward into, I guess it was January, some neighbors told me that they had this deer. They described him to me. We, compared pictures. It was the same deer. They said, well, he made it. And I said, really, you seen him? They said, yeah, we seen him just the other day, and he looks great. He made it through. So I knew he was going to be something special. And coming into this past summer, obviously he was going to be the deer that I set out to look for. That's kind of what I do every summer. I don't have any property that I manage. My family owns some land, and I've got access to a lot of good land. I'm very fortunate, but I don't really manage properties. Each year I kind of have to start fresh, do the crop rotation and things like that. And I knew that I felt like I didn't have much of a chance at being on this deer on that little 17-acre piece. So I start pounding the aerial maps, showing ownership and things like that. And it turned out that there was a farm, honestly, just across the field from where I had hunted him the year before, that a guy that's been a family friend of ours since before I was born. And he's always let me hunt his property. So I ring him up, gain access to it. I go in, I forget the dates, but we're not allowed to start. In Kentucky, it's legal to feed deer. And you can hunt over it and everything, but at the beginning of August is when it becomes legal. You can't do it all year round. And it was the following Friday after that date that I actually got time to go and get cameras out and stuff. And I had looked at maps for, days before I even got permission to hunt there, and then days after before I was able to go in. So I kind of had my spots picked out that way I didn't have to go in and be too intrusive. And I go in about 1:30 on a Friday afternoon and hang the camera, pour some feed out, and the deer was there that night. And I was blown away then. I knew he was going to be special. I even until the point that I killed him, I didn't know exactly how special. But and he'd been there basically the whole time. It seems like deer always take a little hiatus toward the end of August when they hit that last big growth spurt, and they just don't move much. And that happened for about 13 or 14 days. I was sick, obviously, but I never thought that he had disappeared, because I've seen so many bucks do that at that time of year.
Sure.
Yep.
So I went in during that time frame. I took advantage of that period, and I went in any lanes that I thought I was going to have to trim for where the blind was going to be, I done it then. I went ahead and put like 600 pounds of corn out. Anything I needed to get done, new batteries, whatever I could think of to get it done during that time frame, that's when I done it. And he showed back up, I'm going to say about a week before our archery season opens. It opens the first Saturday in September. And I hunted the deer a little bit early on, but I didn't very much because just the cameras didn't make me think that I needed to be doing it yet. And that time of year, crazy stuff don't happen much. You can kind of pattern deer when they're still, in velvet on that early season feed pattern. And I hunted him 4 or 5 times over the last, 2 months. And got a wife and a couple kids at home and busy life. And I just tried to get everything that had to be done out of the way, because I knew that there would be a period at the end of September, beginning of October, a weather front or a moon phase or something would get him walking. I've seen it too many times. And I told my wife, I said, I'm not going to hunt him much right now, but when it gets to the point I think I'm in the game, that's when it's going to be time for me to go in and be serious. The last week and a half, he's been daylighting every morning. And then he would be in and out some of the night. It was always like a 2-hour range. You never really could bank on it. But every morning and it was before he was going back to bed. He was daylighting. And I was waiting for him to take a little spell and do that in the afternoon. Mm-hmm. But as the days went on and we got closer to this change of moon, and we were just a couple days away from our youth rifle weekend, other bucks that I had, pictures of were starting to do different things. And I've been hunting this deer with my compound bow. And, legal shooting light was never a worry of mine. He was there at legal shooting light, but when you've got light on the edge of a soybean field or a food plot, that's a lot different than the light you have at that same time in big, dense, mature timber that's, got its full canopy. It's just a different scenario. And then you add in the factor of a ground blind that all the windows are closed except the one you're shooting out of, for scent control, obviously, and then try to look through a peep sight. And there was no way of really knowing if I could have got a shot with my compound bow through my peep sight. And the only way I could have known was to have tried. And then at that point, what do? Do you come to full draw? And if you don't see, let down and change weapons? I just, that wasn't feasible. So I made the choice to switch over to a crossbow. The next item of business is how the heck do I get in there every morning? And I don't hunt mornings unless the rut is wide open. That's the only time you'll hear me hunt in the morning. And I've different times before on different bucks on different farms, I went in at 1 or 2 o'clock and I thought I got in clean, but at the same time, those bucks had been doing the same thing for several days and they didn't when I hunted them.
Yeah.
So did I really get in clean? I would say probably not.
Yeah.
And on a deer like this, I just wasn't willing to gamble it. So the only thing I could come up with was go in Saturday afternoon at normal time to hunt and just stay.
Oh.
So that's what I did. I sat all night in the ground blind.
What kind of blind did you have set up, Ryan?
Just a soft-sided pop-up ground blind.
So what were the low temperatures that night?
No, that's one thing that was in my favor. It didn't get very cool. I mean, it's us having youth rifle weekend. I went in, just like a regular early season camo, and I had on the orange vest and a hat. And about dark, I did have to take the orange off and put on my hoodie and then put the orange back on over it. It got a little bit too cool for the thin shirt, but no, it wasn't bad. And I mean, if you think it was a long night, you would be correct. It was a very long night, but I can't think back on any point through it all that I was just miserable or, regretting my decision.
What did your wife say?
But now about midnight, I had 16% phone battery, and I thought, yep, the rest of the way is going to suck.
Yeah.
You planned everything pretty well except for that.
Except for the power. What did your wife say?
That wasn't one of my best laid plans, not having my phone fully charged, but it worked out. There was deer in and out of there all night long, and that really helped to keep me entertained. Bucks were sparring, I could hear that, and I heard a buck let out a big long grunt. Coons were really vocal with each other in there. I don't know if you've heard how vocal raccoons can be when they don't know you're around, but it's pretty entertaining. Screech owls, and it was entertaining. I mean, I'm not saying that I'm going to take up doing that very often, but if I had to do it again, I would do it in a heartbeat.
Did you get any sleep?
No, that's what, and everybody, of course, it's a little small town, and everybody said, man, I heard you slept in the blind. I said, well, you heard wrong because I didn't sleep. I sat in the blind, but I didn't sleep.
I sat quietly with my thoughts.
Yeah, pretty much.
I think I'd be scared.
Really? It's just like camping.
Yeah, well, you see me doing that a lot.
Mr. Eagle Scout himself.
Listen, I just don't think I would like it is all I'm saying.
Well, I'm just thinking about the sheer practicality of it because most of those blinds
Well, you probably sat in a chair the whole time, right? Did you lay down at all?
No. I stayed in my chair, and this where I had to be set up to hunt this deer. It's my blind is it's sideways on the side of I'm from Kentucky. I'll go ahead and give you a disclaimer. We don't say hollows. That's something that ain't got nothing in the middle of it. We say hollers.
It's a holler, yeah.
So I was sitting on the side of the holler, and luckily the chair I had adjustable legs, and I had one side of the legs drew all the way up. The other side they were let all the way out, and then I had a rock under each one of them to keep me sitting level. But I mean, it was a comfortable chair. It had the armrest and everything, and anytime I would maybe start to nod off, I would jerk and wake myself up, or there wasn't any sleep that was had. I can tell you that much.
Yeah, I mean, had you thought about bringing a sleeping bag and just laying on the ground?
Well, what I was afraid of was how much noise I would make. If I tossed and turned and things like that. And I'll be honest with you, comfort wasn't my top priority at the time. I wanted to be in there and be ready for that deer when the sun came up. And I was willing to sit there for whatever it ended up being, 14, 15 hours. I was pretty confident that it was going to work. The wind was perfect. I'm a scent control fanatic.
Yeah.
But I did keep in my mind that there's a chance you may go in here and do this and come out with nothing. and I considered all that, but it paid off dividends.
Ryan, what'd your wife say when you said, "Oh, see you tomorrow. I'm going to go sit in my blind all night"?
Nuts.
Well, it's funny. I've got a group of buddies that we talk about deer and we show each other pictures and stuff, but there's a lot of my family didn't even know about this deer. And I mean, obviously part of it, when you get a deer like this, you don't want to tell God and everybody. But I'll be honest with you, whenever I got his picture, I knew he was special. I'm really notorious to get hung up on one deer and obsess over it. And I told myself when I first got his pictures, I'm going to hunt this deer like he's a 140-inch deer. Yeah. I'm not going to overthink it. And I didn't tell many people about it because I didn't want to talk about it. The more I, talk about it, the more I'm going to think about it. I didn't want to make it any bigger than it was. Because a lot of times when I start overthinking things, it's when it doesn't go very well. So, but I told my wife, I told my dad, and I told my brother-in-law what I was going to do the day before.
Honey,
my dad wasn't really surprised. I'll be honest with you. Neither was my brother-in-law. I don't think my wife was surprised, but when I first told her, she looked at me like I had two heads. And I said, "Listen, I know I can hunt as hard as I used to. We've got kids. We've got a busy life." I said, "But I really think if I can do this, that I can get this knocked out and done." And she was very supportive of it. She stayed home with the kids all night, and she even checked on me. So she wasn't too upset. And I've got to thank her a lot too, because she's not a hunter. She has no interest in it whatsoever. But without her being on board or at least tolerating it, I couldn't have done it.
Here, I got a real important question. This is something that would concern me. What did you do for food?
Snacks.
Yeah, what was the snack situation? I'd have firstborn protein sticks, protein bars. Yeah.
Well, I was powered on Red Bull and Sour Patch Kids.
Oh, that sounds like Scott.
Yeah, right.
He was Copenhagen and Monster.
Get a dip in there. Oof.
Yeah, I was running on caffeine and sugar, that's for sure.
And you said you couldn't sleep.
This is odd.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, wonder why.
Okay, so fast forward. The sun's starting to come up. Did you set an alarm? I know your phone was dying, but did you set an alarm just in case you dozed off? That's sucked. What I would have been worried about. Like you stay up all night and finally that last hour you doze off.
Yeah, I set an alarm. I mean, it was on vibrate, but I put it, in my hoodie pocket, so maybe I would feel it. And I set it for like an hour ahead of when the sun would start trying to rise. That way, it doesn't buzz and scare me in the blind, and I jerk and spook deer when they get in there about time for daylight. So I did do that, but I just when I looked at my phone and I knew I was 10 or 15 minutes shy of that going off, I just killed it because I hadn't been to sleep. So
yeah, I'm up.
It's a long night.
Might as well just keep at it. Yeah.
Okay, so sun starts coming up. Do you have deer around you already at that point, or what time do they start?
Yeah, there had been deer in and out, all night. That's like I said, that's probably why I never got tired very, very bad. Right after, the sun went down the afternoon before, deer had been in there, at last light. And when they moved out after about an hour, it started getting pretty monotonous. And that's when my eyelids started getting heavy. But then, the nighttime wave of deer started moving, and that my cell camera was, sending me pictures, and I was able to peek and look what was in the corn pile and see. And of course, I had to sit through him coming in overnight and being at 35 yards, and I could do nothing about it. And, being as tense as possible.
So he was in
afraid
there?
Afraid that maybe he would smell me or something. And there was another pretty nice deer in there that I'm trying to get my nephew in front of, and he was there, and which I knew that would, happen.
So what time was that? What time was that when the big deer showed up?
That would have been right around midnight, roughly, something like that.
And he's 35 yards from
And he
you.
was there he was 35 yards in the corn pile, eating just like a big heifer calf.
Let me ask you this. Did you put the one window up that you were going to shoot out of, did you put that up overnight just so?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I had that up, and I mean, I tell you, I do what most of you all probably do. I take care of my camouflage. I don't wear it until I get to where I'm going and take the showers. And my wife, I had to repeat myself so she understood what I really said. I told her actually this morning, I said, you know that I've not used scented body wash in over 2 months.
Yeah.
And she looked at me like I was, a skank or something. I said, no, I've washed, but I've not used scented body wash. I've not used scented deodorant. The only time I wore cologne was just a very little bit on my shirt for church on Sunday.
And it's Brute by
and then
Fabergé.
I use ozone, stuff, those products. And so it, I wasn't, you can never fully control a deer's nose, but I could go to sleep at night knowing I was doing all possible, at least.
Yeah. So, okay. So sun's coming. He was there at midnight, walks off. So, he's kind of in the area. And then sun comes up. How long before the first deer shows up, or were there just deer there at that point?
Yeah, there were some small bucks that had filtered in and left, and then some does, and that's the way the sequence of pictures had always been. He would show up. He would be the last deer there, basically. And I don't know if he stood out from a distance and watched. I couldn't tell you. It's pretty thick in there. I could see a decent distance, but about the time it was, and I could see the edge of the bean field. It was probably 50 yards, 60 yards to my left, and it was, considerably daylight out there, very comfortably in the legal shooting light. Still, it was dim in the timber, but I had already, the deer that were there, I had looked at them through my crossbow scope just to be sure that, I was going to be able to see whenever he got there. And that was all no issue. And when they got gone, and I had leaned back and was, trying to get comfortable and just keep myself calm because I'm expecting this to happen just at any time, but trying to stay, gathered up too. And I leaned back in my chair and I didn't, how big deer are. I don't understand how something that size can move and leaves without making any noise.
Yeah.
But I didn't hear him coming, and I looked up and I could see legs underneath the, the underbrush, and I knew what was fixing to happen. So I went ahead and got up and got in position, and he comes in, facing me head on naturally. And he stands there and eats for probably, it seemed like 6 hours, but it's probably 5 minutes. And
a long time.
He took a step. He stepped on out, and when he took his next step, he kind of turned broadside all in one move. From that point, pulled the shot off. I knew instantly I'd hit him good. And it's like I said, this is a rough hillside, and at one point it almost drops off, and he run over that, and I heard the deer crash, and I sat there for another several seconds, just to make sure I didn't hear anything else going on before I, came apart at the seams and was freaking out in the blind. Yeah. And I said, I'm going to get out of the blind and I'm going to go see if there's blood right where I shot him. And I was going to be able to go to the edge of the hill and look kind of out into the creek bottom. And I said, if I can see him and I know he's dead, I'll go on. And if I don't see him, I'm going to leave, go to church. And then after church, I'll come back. That would have been 5 or 6 hours. And I got there instantly, good blood, bubbles in it. I knew it was lung. And I got to the edge. And I was almost looking down at him. Maybe 50 yards. So, and even then I stood for a second, just to watch him. But
yeah,
from the time I shot till the time I had, dad and brother-in-law and everybody like that, my brother on the phone, it was 5 or 6 minutes. It all happened just
What time are we talking here?
It was, there's been so many people ask me that, and I've had to say, I don't know. I didn't even think to look, but I went back because I had texted my brother-in-law. It's the one I hunt with a lot is my nephew, and this is his dad. When my nephew had said back at the beginning of the season, he really hoped that I got that deer so he could come help get him out. So I called my brother-in-law and no answer, but I texted him. I said, are you up? He's dead. And this was just shy of 7 o'clock. So probably, 6:45-ish, somewhere in there. Like I say, it was very daylight in the bean field. It was still pretty dim where I was. And honestly, now that it's all done and over with, I'm not going to swear that I couldn't have shot him with my Matthews, but I couldn't make sense to roll the dice and come to full draw and then not be able to do it and have to, go to switching around. It just, that wasn't even remotely an option in my opinion.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
I took what I thought was the safe route.
Yeah, no, I get it. I had a team member that texted me yesterday actually and said, hey, I got a big deer I'm chasing. Do you mind if I go after him with a mission? I said, hey, hey, I totally get it. Whatever you think you got to do. I go, but maybe you take both weapons and see if you get a chance. He's like, it's just a big deer and I just want to get him dead. And I was like, I get it. I think, do you have a sight light on your sight, on your Matthews? Those have helped us tremendously in blinds through the years. Like you almost can't see your sight pins without them in those blinds in that last 20 minutes of light.
Yeah, I've got one, and it's the only problem I have, and I've never killed a deer in iffy low light, but now I've came to full draw on some and some iffy light, from a tree stand or just other scenarios with those lights on. And if it's a top pin situation, then I don't have much trouble. But if like that, he was going to be a 35-yard shot, and that would have been my second pin. And whenever I try to aim with that pin or one of the others, if I've got a pin on top and on bottom of the one I'm using, and those lights are on, it's like it glares so bad.
I could see that 100%. Just one big, it's just one big pin
with it. Yeah,
dude, this is a crazy story. I mean, it's awesome that you went through that kind of dedication and to sit out there all evening. I mean, I've heard of Bill Winke doing that, maybe one other guy. You don't hear many guys doing that.
I think Aaron Merrill, one of our DeerCast writers, did that a few years back.
Yeah. I mean, it's awesome. It's something I guess if the deer's big enough, to your point, you hone in and you're like, all right, I'm going to go to the next level here. So I get it from that perspective. I've never had a deer to hunt that big, so right. Who knows what I would do. But man, that's a crazy story.
It's whenever you kill 3 or 4 good deer, people start saying, oh, good hunter this or not, stuff like that. But I tell everybody I don't see myself as a good hunter, because if I was a good hunter, I wouldn't have to do some of the things I do to be successful. It's my neighbors still laugh at me because back about 6 or 7 weeks ago on a Sunday after church, the weatherman had called for light rain. I think he should have put a lot of rain because it ended up being torrential. And I don't know what happened. Whenever I went in there earlier the week before to feed, the batteries in my cell camera like 90%. Well, just within a few days, they were down to like 50. And I don't know, the cameras you all use, I don't know how it works, but once you get below, 50, 40%, they just don't work as good. So I was going to go in Sunday after church in the light rain to put new batteries in, and it ended up being torrential. Well, that didn't really stop me, but I passed by my neighbor's house, and it's raining cats and dogs. It's hammering. And I had this big goofy looking rain suit on. I looked like the Gordon's fisherman. And they still laugh at me over that. And then he asked me what I was doing, and I just said top secret mission. And I'm sure he knew it was something, to do with a big deer. But
that's a good point, though. I mean, we had a cousin of mine, Jason Lurk, just killed a 180 a couple weeks ago down in our hometown, and him and his brother Justin went in on it was supposed to be a little rainy, like what you're talking about. It ended up being a torrential downpour, and that's when they went in to hang their cameras, or change some cameras around, and set everything up. I mean, that's that's the kind of stuff deer guys do to kill big deer. So it makes sense. The only people that don't think you're nuts are people that hunt.
Yeah. Well, and how many times have we gone to
pretty much
the nth degree and nothing has happened? Because there's just no guarantee. I mean, you could have spent the whole night in the blind and not seen him.
Sure.
And then like, you burnt some points at home, and like it's all a gamble. And
so what kind of energy levels did you have? I assume you went to church that day. You sound like you were.
Yeah. We luckily we were able to go ahead and get him out pretty quick. I was able to drive my side by side to him, and my brother-in-law and nephew that went with me to get him. They don't live very far from me, so we were able to get him out pretty quick. And it wasn't very hot that morning. And I backed him up into my barn out of the sun that way, and we got him out after church to take pictures and everything. And I hadn't told a ton of people. I'd use Snapchat and things like that, but I didn't want my phone blowing up with me trying to sit there in church and things like that. But we went on to church, and afterwards everybody came back to the house to see him. And it's like I said, I knew the deer was special, but all through the time that I had him on camera, I was guessing him around 190. But he had his main beams and his mass was a lot better than what I gave him credit for. And the last few days, it's been crazy. The calls and texts and messages that I've had, and I'm not going to say that there's nobody around here that might be living the salt life just a little bit, but 95% of the feedback I've got is I've heard so many kind things from people. Man, it's been crazy. It's been awesome.
That's good.
Beyond my wildest dreams.
Yeah, that's good. That's what you always hope. I mean, big deer can bring bad things out of people, but if you're in a good area, good community, I saw that with my cousin Jason's deer. Like everybody was really happy for him, and of course, a lot of people were chasing that deer.
Something to rally around.
Yeah. So that's pretty awesome. So when did you tape him? Later that day, I guess, when you were taking pictures and stuff.
Yeah. We waited until after church was over, and it was the middle of the day, and the sun was out really good and stuff, and that's when I set him up in the backyard for pictures. After we got in from church.
When you taped him, added him up to 211 and 5/8, what did you think?
Well, I did that just as soon as I got him home because I was dying to,
Sure.
And score's not everything. I agree with that, and some people say that I don't care about the numbers, and that's fine. But I mean, on a deer like that, it dang sure adds to the excitement when you see a 2 pop up on that phone screen when you're doing math.
Oh yeah.
So I came home and I measured him out. I had thankfully enough time to do that. And I thought when I got up to the deer and got my hands on him that he was about to surprise me. But I'm sure you all have done it too. A couple different times I had sat down and wrote up like a score sheet, what I thought his measurements would be. And I came up with like 191, 196. And whenever I was about halfway through measuring him, I was like, man, this deer is about to surprise me. Both of his main beams were over 27 inches, and he had at his bases was like, and the way I scored him originally, I had a pro shop here in town that scores pretty well in line with like Boone and Crockett, and I had him check me, and the way the deer had some trash at his bases, and it almost looked like between the bottom of his sticker and the top of his base palmated a little. You've got to measure those just a little bit different. And I was a little bit high on my base mass increments, but everywhere else I'd measured him short, which I made a point to be pretty conservative with him. But it was crazy. And I took him on Monday, and it's my buddy that runs that pro shop, and he said, "Man, I think you shorted him a little." And I said, "Well, take off, see what you come up with." And whenever he scored him, and using, like I say, a Boone and Crockett score sheet, he came up with actually 212 and change gross. And on the deer's typical frame, just as a slick 10 point, he was 178. Oof. And then he netted 175, I think it was. He only had a little over 3 inches.
Net Boone. That's awesome.
Yeah. So he unofficially netted 208 and some change.
Holy
hell yeah. That's awesome.
So at what point did you say 100% Wild podcast, here I come?
I don't know. I like to see what everybody posts in the rack pack, and I thought, heck, I'll post him in there. And I thought there would be enough people in there that would appreciate it and not do some of the bash talk and some of those score fact checkers. There's a lot of those out there.
Oh, yeah.
Well, actually,
we usually don't have that kind of problem.
Thankfully, yeah.
Oh, yeah. He looks like he's 130.
And that, I mean, the post has over 1,000 reach in the rack pack.
Nice. Yeah. I mean, people love the stories, kind of like success stories. It's like, okay, if this guy can do it, maybe I have a chance. It's just it's one thing to see Mark and Terry and Lakoskis, the Kiskis, like Lindsay's, the people that
expect it.
You hate to say that because you should never expect it from anybody. It gets hard to do, but those guys, they kill a big deer. Like, yep, that makes sense. Mm-hmm. But when it's like we're the little guys, you know what I mean? Yeah. When the little guy kills one, it's like, hell yeah, everybody's super pumped up and excited for you.
Yeah, I love to watch, the videos that you all put up, and I think I've seen Lee and Tiff do some of the same things, like where basically you take a farm that's brand new and you kind of orchestrate it to where they want the deer to be, and that is awesome. I love to watch them do that. But now, like with me, I'm blessed to have the ground that I have, so don't take it as me, taking it for granted. But basically every year I start fresh because, what I hunted last year that was in beans this year is going to be in corn. And I've heard Mark talk actually on this podcast about, if you are making your decisions based off what your scouting is showing you this year, you're running behind. You're behind it because it's already happened. Mm-hmm. And you've got to kind of remember what you've seen last year, but with the way that I'm going about it and having to, switch around with crop rotation, I'm having to think back for 2 years, what did I see here 2 years ago or even longer and on this farm. And I've been, the whole time that I've had this deer, I've just been thankful to have an opportunity to hunt him. So I try not to ever complain. But there was a time or two I thought, this is the only time in my life I'm probably going to have this opportunity. And it's on a farm that I have never even seen before. That's just how it happened. And But now it was a pretty cliche setup for, early season Kentucky bow hunting. And it's been a roller coaster. I can tell you that for sure.
Dang.
Well, congratulations. It's certainly a fun story to follow along with.
Yeah. Thanks for sharing with everybody. It does give people hope that
I had
things can
my
happen.
taxidermist. He wouldn't let me leave the antlers there. He said, "I'm going to get them off, and you're going to take them home because they're not staying in my shop."
Wow, look at those bases.
Hang on to him until he puts them together. So,
dude, that's yeah. The pictures don't do him justice. Actually, I mean, the bases on that. Okay, so he's got a couple coming off the back too. A couple kickers. How much?
Yeah.
How many inches in junk did you have?
What was that?
How many inches in junk did you measure?
37 and some odd eighths of abnormal points. Yeah.
Yeah, that's because you often wonder. We had a guy a couple weeks ago. He killed a 232-ish, and it was a 160 frame the year before. And when you start getting into how many scoreable points do you have there?
There was 22 scoreable.
Yeah, you start getting into those numbers, and that inch here, 2 inches, like those kickers in the back. What were those 4 inches? You start adding all that stuff
he had
up.
one close to that.
Yeah. Amazing.
Yeah, so much character. Like a deer like that, I love all that trash.
The trash. Yeah. Trash adds up, man.
100%. Yep. Yeah.
Ooh.
Dang.
Well, we appreciate you sharing it with us.
Yeah, I appreciate you all a lot. It's been fun.
Yeah, well, hopefully you can get your nephew on his buck. Sounds like he's up next.
That's going to be the goal. Yep, that'll be the goal. He's eat up with it. He loves it. I think he's 9. He'll be 10 next month, and the little turd's killed a few pretty good deer in a row, and which I'm glad. But I've spoiled him just a little bit. But he's not got to hunt much yet. Football he's playing, and he understood the magnitude of this and how big of an opportunity it was, and but now that I've got it out of the way, he's expecting some time in the blind, and he's fixing to get it. That's what the rest of the season is going to be about is getting in there with him.
You'll have to keep the rack pack updated then. Let us know what's going on.
Absolutely. Heck yeah.
All right.
Sure.
Well, we got a few other things that we do. If you've obviously listened to the podcast, we got the question of the day, wildlife word of the day. If you want to stick around for it, you can. And if not, we totally get it. Just let us know. But we're going to go to the next thing here.
No, I'm already here. I might as well stay.
He's
in it to win it.
He's locked and loaded.
I love it. That's a true rack packer.
Right.
All right. So we got the question of the day. It's brought to you by Cold Steel. Check out the full line of Cold Steel hunting knives for the upcoming hunting season.
Do you watch Keith Beam's Cold Steel
Beamer.
Reels?
Yeah. Yeah. Go to Cold Steel's YouTube page or Instagram Reels. It's funny. A industry friend of ours, Keith Beam, he was one of the main guys at Double Bull Blinds back in the day, which Primo's ended up buying, and it became a whole, but ground blind hunting, Ryan could thank Keith Beam.
The godfather of ground blinds.
He is really. But anyways, those videos are nuts. Cold Steel videos.
Throwing knives.
It's always at like a zombie head.
His whole garage or barn, whatever it is, like if someone he doesn't know walks in there, they're going to be like, where are the dead bodies buried?
What's funny is he's the nicest guy in the world. Most positive, nicest person I know.
Which no one ever suspects.
That's right. There you go.
Seemed like a nice guy.
All right. So we got a question from Hunter for Life over on iTunes.
Oh.
And he says, I recently found a young buck dead in a lake on one of my hunting properties in southern West Virginia. I've heard that EHD mostly affects older deer. Is that true? And what are the chances that it's a random occurrence and not EHD? I had heard of West Virginia getting hammered with EHD this year. So I mean, obviously without knowing your exact area, my first instinct would be EHD. And there's been a lot of states that got pretty hit hard with it. It's not just going to affect the older deer. I mean, it's going to affect bucks. You're going to see a lot of bucks typically more so than does. But I mean, when it's bad, it wipes everything out.
I mean, I had a buck die ostensibly from EHD a couple of years back on one of my properties, and it was maybe a 2.5-year-old deer.
Yeah.
And then the rack that I found just about a month ago now on one of my properties, probably 3.5-year-old deer. So it definitely impacts bucks disproportionately. But I don't know about the age thing. I don't know if that plays a part.
Ryan, have you guys encountered any in Kentucky in your areas? this year?
Not in my area. In the last couple of years, I've heard a lot about it in other parts of the state, but thankfully none in my area. Now, I guess 2 years ago there was a really big deer and everybody ended up having the video of it. And it was just off the side of the road, and this is like a mile from my house, and he was just spinning circles in a field.
Yeah.
And of course everybody wondered what it was, and ended up Fish and Wildlife came and put the deer down, and it turned out to be what they called a brain worm is what it was.
Oh. But
when I was a kid, there was a really bad, which we called it blue tongue breakout. But since then, we've not, to my knowledge, I've not noticed it on any of the farms that I hunt for several years, thankfully.
Yeah. Good. Yeah. It sucks when it hits. It takes a few years to bounce back from.
And there's also like, people have heart attacks. People have weird things that happen to them, and they pass away unexpectedly. You're
saying deer can something like this, the worm. Things happen. Yep. Not always EHD or CWD, which is what typically people.
Yeah. Sometimes things just die.
Thanks, Tim.
Let's just end there.
Way to go.
Sometimes things just die, except deer on my property. Thanks for watching, everybody.
Especially right now. All right, what do we got next, Timmy?
Let's jump into the wildlife word. It's brought to you by Nose Jammer. Wrong wind. Jam them.
I used some yesterday, and then I was going to use some as we always, when we get to the spot, I drive the tractor over to the spot, get out, spray some on the boots. I had lost mine on the way. I was a little anxious and late to get to the blind, so I was going a little faster. We hit a few bumps on the way, and I was like, oh, that's donated to the field somewhere
out there.
We looked on our way back, didn't find it.
Great.
Yeah.
Okay, so there's a rare case where bucks don't shed their antlers, and instead they keep a velvet-covered rack that continually grows throughout the year. These are sometimes referred to as cactus bucks. What is the actual name of this condition? Is it A, cryptocortism, B, indecisiveness,
I like that,
C, contrarianism, or D, hat failure?
Ryan, what do you think? You're the taxidermist.
Repeat those options, Tim, if you don't care.
A, cryptocortism, B, indecisiveness, C, contrarianism, or D, hat failure.
I mean, off the top of my head, A sounds most realistic.
Yeah, same.
Okay. Sounds like the most complicated word.
At least two options that seem real. I'd say I'd go with A as well.
The deer simply refused to shed his antlers.
Yeah, or hat failure. I like that.
It is actually cryptocortism.
Oh, shocker.
Or cryptorchidism. Sorry, I'm saying it wrong. Cryptorchidism.
Could be chidism. There's a CH there, Tim.
It could be stewelbus. It's hard to know. Who knows how words are formed?
The English teachers.
Probably right.
All right.
Hey, shout outs.
We need some. So we need you guys. Come on.
Or maybe we should take the hint.
Quit asking for them. Well, we would like for you to go to your platform that you listen to the podcast or watch the podcast and leave a shout out, and we'll read it on the air here.
Yep.
You'll be famous.
Until then, we will just browbeat you.
And if you're a big buck killer like Ryan, you could be on the show. Ryan, or it was Lance a couple weeks ago?
Yeah.
I'm looking for 2 hundos and up.
That's all I'm going to shoot. Mess around with a 190.
It's going to be another long season.
Well, you never know.
Pretty sure I do.
Pretty positive.
All right, we got some new Rack Pack members. We've alluded to it. Ryan's a member. He's sharing deer pictures, two 11s in there in the Rack Pack. If you want, go to Facebook, type in 100% Wild Rack Pack, and it's a private group. You can join in the shenanigans. All right, this week we got some new names. We got Dustin Mills, Mike Vessel, Crystal Chandelier.
She sounds hot.
She does sound.
Yeah.
What's the Crystal? What was the country singer? Crystal Gale.
Man.
And Ricky Bobby. Is it Ricky Bobby? It's Step Brothers, where he's got a Crystal Gale shirt. No, it is Ricky Bobby. It's Talladega Nights.
Yeah. And Step Brothers, one of them is wearing a Judd's t-shirt.
Nice.
Which is great.
I mean, if you young guns out there haven't watched Step Brothers, you need to get with it.
So speaking of Judd's, were you a Naomi guy or a Winona? guy.
Which one's the mom?
Naomi.
Hell yeah.
Yep.
She ended up having problems later in life.
Yeah.
Ended tragically.
she did. I know it's still out there though. She's still touring.
She's a little chunky for my liking.
Okay. Well, maybe we can have her on. You can tell her.
Love will keep it alive. Isn't that one of their songs?
Love will build a bridge.
Is it? Is that one of their songs?
Between your heart
The mom
and
was
mine.
hot. I mean,
Oh yeah.
yeah, hold on. I got a soundbite for that somewhere.
Okay.
Hold on. Tim Stahl.
No,
I got it.
I'll sing.
And my dad decided that your mom was really hot.
So
me and Terry probably would agree that
we have
Naomi
to
was
have
hot.
Winona on so that we can use that sound clip.
That's right. I think it'd be a little too soon.
God rest her soul.
R.I.P. All right.
Where
Where else can you get Judd talk?
We're not good. We're not Judd talk. I want some JT. We get more Judd talk next week.
All right. We got Dave Downs. We got Adam Woodcheck. If you Woodcheck, could check Woodcheck.
Woody check?
I don't say that, Tim.
Who knows?
Hold on.
I don't think so, Tim.
This seems really loud. Okay, we got Tom Roberts Jr., we got Mike Anderson, Tim Goddard, Timothy Lemo,
Lamo.
Trip Kennard. I went to college. I had a class with a guy named Trip in college.
That's a cool name.
I thot that was the
Yep.
coolest damn name of a guy. He was really old for the class.
Oh, like a non-traditional student?
I think it was sculpting or something, because I had art class, a lot of art classes as general electives, and he was at least a 5th or 6th year senior, but he was really cool.
Okay.
And I thought, this guy, he knows what he's doing. Trip.
He's living that like eternal
I was a
student
freshman
life.
thinking, this guy.
Man, I want to be like him. 27.
You know that Bert Kreischer, the guy that he's a comedian. 2 Bears, 1 Cave.
Yeah.
Podcast.
I've heard of him.
I don't remember how to say his last name, but he's the guy that National Lampoon, the movie is. That's his story. Not the old one, the National Lampoon.
The one with Ryan Reynolds?
Yes, the one with Ryan
Okay.
Reynolds. That's his story from when he was down in Miami or something. And then he had a movie later on that came out maybe last year or the year before. And it was about his life. And he went over to Russia on like a school trip, and he got wrapped up with a gang of the Russian like mafia. Like, this is all true stories and stuff.
Jeez.
Yeah, it's pretty funny.
I wonder what my.
But that's what
movie
I
would-
thought of a trip. That movie with Ryan Reynolds came up about the same time.
Whatever
I thought,
happened to Ryan Reynolds?
well, married Blake Lively.
Cell phone company owner,
Yeah.
Deadpool.
Soccer. He owns that soccer team.
Holy cow.
Yeah. He owns everything. And he's friends with Taylor Swift.
And he seems pretty cool too. I don't know.
Are you happy you stayed on for this, Ryan? Bet you're regretting your decision
Yeah,
now.
absolutely. This is must see TV.
Ryan, your wife is probably like off camera and she's like, yeah, they're talking about the Judds.
They're talking about
can't get
Taylor
on.
Swift. T Swizzle. She made it.
Can't get out of there.
No
All right.
Swifties in my house.
Do you have any daughters?
I do. Yeah, I've got one that's 6 and one that's 2. And, the 6-year-old, I think she's got a poster of her, but she doesn't even know who she is. And I'm gonna have to get it down from in there before she figures it out.
My
Good luck.
12-year-old daughter has been turned off by Taylor's political activism.
Smart.
I was like, eh.
Wise beyond her years.
And like she doesn't hear it from me. Like I expect artists to have all kinds of views.
That's just lamenting Taylor Swift on the way to school.
Okay, kids, who do we hate?
Taylor Swift. Yeah, you'd have to hate basically all of Hollywood. So you can't go by those
there's
metrics.
no way to live like that. Yeah, 100%.
All right, well, we've had enough here. Ryan,
Yeah,
I'm sure you have as well.
Let's kill something.
You go bask in the glory of your 211 and 5 ace. And if any other podcast wants to hear your story, politely decline. And that way we have the exclusive.
No problem. No problem. I appreciate you guys a lot.
Hey, send me a message with your mailing address, and we can send you a podcast hat.
Dang.
We don't have any t-shirts.
All right.
We need to get a t-shirt.
That would be great.
I don't know if anybody noticed this, but Tim's got a cup that says "Killing 230s" and stuff, based off Lance's podcast. That's producer Jordan and Joe's.
Brilliant.
Yeah,
I'm more on the stuff side,
same.
but
Peeing in scrapes and waving at people.
You could, wouldn't it have been hilarious if like he called the cops and got you for public indecency?
Surprisingly, everyone I texted said, I bet he didn't see anything.
Oh, man. So I wasn't the first.
No, at least 4 other people said that, including my wife. My wife.
No, I can't do it. We need to stop.
All right, let's get out of here.
All right, Ryan, congrats again, man.
Thank you all the time. Appreciate it. Good luck the rest of the way.
Hey, where can people find your taxidermy business if they're interested in the Kentucky area?
It's I just post everything on my personal Facebook. What I do is the Euros, like the skull mounts. I do those and just like a side gig. I've got a day job and everything like that. It's something just on the side, but they can add me. If they can find my name in the rack pack or anything like that, they can add me on Facebook, and that's where I post everything regarding that. So I've taken out of state deer that were shipped to me. They've got to be from a state that's legal to ship deer out of. With the CWD guidelines and stuff. But just my personal Facebook.
All right, perfect. All right, if you're interested, look Ryan up and get a good dose of big deer pictures in the meantime.
Heck yeah. All right,
that'll do it. If you're out there grinding, good luck, be safe, and the best part of the season's upon us.
Here we go.
All right, talk to you later. Peace.
Take land management to the next level with DeerCast's exclusive virtual rain gauges. Pinpoint accuracy and historical data, all powered by industry-leading ag weather services. DeerCast has the tools to keep you ahead of your game.
We're adding new videos every week, so make sure to click that subscribe button and check out all of our amazing content. This episode of DoD TV is brought to you by DeerCast Maps, waypoints, weather, virtual rain gauges, and more. Every tool you need to get ahead of your game.